Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Hello, I'm Howard Josepher, and I'm in recovery from heroin addiction. I grew up in Bronx, New York. It was a middle-class environment. My parents are both immigrants who came to the United States because they believed that the streets were paved with gold and it was the land of opportunity. And most of the people I grew up with came from similar backgrounds. And while we played a lot of sports and we got a little older, dated girls and normal stuff like that. The high value in our community was education and getting an education. That was paramount. And so, like most of my friends, after high school, I went to college, and I kind of struggled in college, and then dropped out for a while, went into the Army, and all of this this part of my life had absolutely no drug use. I'm sure I drank just like my friends did, but there was no hint of a problem until I graduated college and started to party, which I thought was great fun. I was having a good time. I moved from the Bronx into Manhattan. I thought that was real cool. At that time, being part of the jazz scene at Birdland and the Latin dance hall scene at the Palladium, we called ourselves Mambo Nicks in those days. But there came a point after maybe a year or two of partying where I felt like I had a realization that people were not as happy as they seemed. We're partying, but at some point I thought I saw that people were wearing masks. And I didn't know what to do with that insight, but not too long afterwards, someone in my crowd had some heroin, and I had never done it up until that point. Maybe this is after college. I had smoked some pot. I was doing hallucinogens like mescaline and LSD. And this is in the very many years ago, in the early days of even LSD and mescaline. So someone had some heroin, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey, let's try it one time, what the hell?" And I said, "Solid, I'll do it one time." And I fell in love with it right away, no doubt about it. First time, I don't know if you would say I was hooked, but I fell in love with it. It was an unusual experience for me. It took me into a place, a blissful place, a really contented place, and the kind of, I had always guessed growing up, experienced some kind of like something was missing or a void. And this most definitely filled that void. And so a few hours after I tried it for the first time, I said, "Well, where's that friend of mine that had the dope? I'm ready for a little bit more." And that started almost 7 years of heroin addiction, which brought me to my knees many times. Many attempts at stopping, but relapsing, going into hospitals and detoxes. We really didn't have drug treatment the way we have it today. Back in those days, in the early 60s, the only drug treatment that existed was in 2 federal hospitals that were actually connected or part of federal prisons. One in Lexington, Kentucky, which became a rather famous institution, and another federal drug treatment program in Fort Worth, Texas. So I paid a visit to that fine establishment, and being that I signed myself in, after 2 days I signed myself right out, and came back to New York, became addicted again, doing crime. I was arrested over those years of my active addiction at least a half a dozen times, and now I was getting into my late 20s, and it was I was becoming fairly hopeless that I could change after so many attempts to kick the habit and relapsing. I was looking at some prison time because of those arrests, and I decided to leave the country, and went to England, which at that time had a system whereby a physician could prescribe heroin for an addict, and you basically got your drugs, your syringe, legally. I thought that I could manage, but that also became out of hand for me, and I was trying to obtain more drugs when I was arrested, and ultimately deported back here to New York. But it was an interesting experience in England because I had what I thought was the junkie's dream. I had my drugs, and I still didn't manage it very well. But when I came back to New York, I was again given the opportunity to get into a program, and I went into Odyssey House when it was in its first early stages. And when I was in that therapeutic community, I met other people like myself who were striving to make a better life for themselves, and I bought into it. I saw a future for myself, and while I was not motivated when I first went into the program, once I was there, I said, I'm going to stick with this and do something different with my life. The idea of being with people like myself as part of a small community who were helping one another, providing for all the needs that exist in a commune, and to have the opportunities to talk about my feelings, to talk about my experiences, my dreams in these groups that we had. I thought I not only thought that it would help me turn my life around. It indeed did turn my life around. That's well over 40 years ago, that experience. I think I'm a responsible, functioning, contributing member to my community. I think that that recovery is a lot more than sobriety. You could have people who are sober and doing some terrible things, like dealing drugs or doing crimes. And I'm not sure I would consider that person a person in recovery. And someone like me, who had a serious addiction to heroin, where if I had the drugs, I'd shoot up 10, 15 times a day. I was definitely over the edge and into the madness of addiction. And I don't do that today. I'm someone who believes that, yes, there are many doors to recovery, but recovery can take different paths. And I think it's important that those of us who've overcome serious addiction, that we not only be responsible citizens, but if there's some way that we could help others to give something back, I think that's a great thing for us to be doing. So I have, what keeps me going is I have a good network. I got loving, caring friends. I got work that I like and I enjoy. And I've learned how to cope with that part of me that led me into addiction. I've learned how to reduce stress through meditation and being more mindful. I've learned how to not be reactive and take a step back and see what my options are and choose to handle the various things in my life that I can handle them in a way that I can feel good about. So I could say that's the way I keep myself together today. Well, certainly it's a very different life, because when I was addicted, I was out of control. I really believed that I had to do some of the things that I did. And it may be more than 40 years ago, but when I think about it, some of those things, I don't feel good about it. I don't think anybody goes through life without some regrets. But I was in the full madness of addiction, thinking, believing I had to do some of those crazy things. I've come to understand that that part of what led me into that self-destructive behavior was not only a belief system that told me negative things about myself. I was in a self-destructive relationship with myself, which means you know, you don't like yourself, and then there's a part of you that doesn't like you so much that that anger, that rage, gets turned on self. And I don't feel that way anymore. I've changed, and I've changed the way I think. And by changing the way I think, I have changed the way I feel. And I don't have the need to medicate my feelings the way I did many years ago when I was addicted. What I do here at Exponents is basically provide opportunities for people I have some common experience with people from the inner city here in New York who have had personal experience with addiction, with incarceration, with compromised immune systems, and we help people to take better care of themselves, to develop a better relationship with themselves. Because if that relationship with yourself becomes one of acceptance, becomes one of where you become a friend to yourself, you're not going to be in so much pain that you need to medicate. And that's the way I understand drug-taking behavior. It's a form of self-medication. And to me, the only reason why anybody would keep medicating themselves, even when they know that what they're doing is hurting themselves, that anyone who habitually takes substances, even though they know it's going to ultimately hurt themselves, is someone in pain. And the getting high is just a form of medicating that pain. And so, in a lot of ways, it seems that people suffer. They suffer from the pain of depression. They suffer from the pain of faulty understanding and belief systems. But the way our society has chosen to deal with this pain, or people who suffer from this pain, is to punish them, to criminalize them, to put them in jail because they're self-medicating. Seems somewhat ironical that we are promoting medication of pain, unwanted feelings, bad moods. We're promoting medicating that on television, pushing drugs on people in our society. But if you happen to find a drug that works for you but is not being marketed by a pharmaceutical company, well, now you're a criminal. Now you're an outlaw. But if you're taking a pharmaceutical drug, well, we'll give you a pass on that. So I think that we've gone about dealing with our drug issue in this country in a manner that's not very effective at all, and that if we were able to become a bit more enlightened and start treating addiction for what the science today is telling us is a chronic health condition, then that kind of treatment, I think, could help a lot more people and be a lot less expensive than the way we're going about dealing with our drug issues in this country today. Well, of course, you're dealing in the instance of someone in addiction or someone's family that's affected by a member who is addicted. You're certainly dealing with people who are in a lot of pain, and the first thing that I would say is don't give up hope. There's many of us who have been in that place, and we've found our way out. And as long as an individual continues to try, make attempts, then I think that there's hope. For families, it's a bit more challenging because if change is to happen, it has to come from the individual, not from the family. The family can encourage, the family can support, the family can actually seek help for itself. See, addiction is very complicated when it comes to the family, because the addicted person obviously is dysfunctional. But where does it come from? To me, a dysfunctional family produces dysfunctional individuals. So it's not just the individual has to change from their addictive, self-destructive behavior. The family in some way has to change also in order for that addicted person, who now may be healed and recovering, in order for that addicted person to be part of that family again, family has to undergo some kind of changes also. So it's, it's a lot of work, because you don't just change addictive behavior with good intentions. You gotta work at it. You gotta show up. You gotta be committed to it. But that change can definitely happen. Thousands and thousands, millions of us have done it, and so can someone who's still out there suffering. Hello, I'm Howard Josepher, and I'm in recovery from heroin addiction that took place many, many years ago. And I'm proud to say today I lead a healthy, productive, and contributing life. And I want other people to know, people who are still suffering with their alcohol or substance abuse, don't give up hope. You can change. You can make a better life for yourself.
Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel,